Amen.
Yeah. Confess up to it. Well, that's for you, but not for me.
It's so irritating that they really think that we're like white supremacists or something. You know, I mean, give me a break. Come on. I mean,
How many
can we
people
call you
here
guys
have
Nazis?
minority children? They would be shocked, I'm sure.
What's that?
How many people here have children of color? So,
Oh, yeah.
with
Oh, yeah.
amongst us.
They're all.
You know, in the school too often, and too many dust up for the coaches. But you can obviously see he's got a huge chip on him. And they encourage him. They never rain him. What's that?
Check.
All right, we will now bring back after recess the August 10th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Directors of Denver Heights Schools. I want to apologize, I used the word adjourn. I meant adjourn for a recess. I just want to let people know that. So, we will continue with public comment and we will move to the next person, which is Judith Merritt.
Brandon, Dr. Cook, can you finish?
Can we let Brandon finish?
You can have 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Hey, microphone's not on. Microphone's not on.
Let's make sure that your microphone works.
Might have got unplugged by somebody in the back. It's possible. Check. There we go.
Thank you. I speak to you today as a proud father of 2 daughters. We teach our children to be honest. When they make mistakes, they take ownership and learn from those mistakes. They're met with love, empathy, compassion, and forgiveness. I think we could all use a little more of this in our lives. You cannot be effective leaders when you lose credibility within the community and choose to not take responsibility for your actions. You can, however, lead by example tonight and acknowledge these mistakes, and you might just be surprised what you're met with. Love, empathy, compassion, and forgiveness. Thank you very much for letting me finish my statement.
Sorry, my husband's a very tough act to follow. Good evening, my name is Judith Merritt. I'm a part of Moms for Liberty, but more importantly, I am a concerned parent. I'm here to bring forth the importance and privilege of parental involvement as it pertains to the educational institution and the long-term benefits that it has on students. It is well established that parental involvement correlates with school achievement for both children and adolescents. Elementary school children gain greater academic, language, and social skills. Middle and high school students spend more time doing and completing homework and have performed better academically and later on as adults. One does not need to search far to find numerous studies supporting and reaffirming this notion. To that end, the research is conclusive and demonstrates that parental involvement is more important to children's academic success than their family's socioeconomic status, their race, their ethnicity, or their educational background. Involvement of parent is not only related to their position in the home, but also includes participation within the school. And this includes various forms of parental activism. Research on effective schools, meaning where students are learning and achieving, have a strong and positive school-home relationship to anchor and maintain their success. School-home relationships include students, parents, caregivers, schools, and the community. All students are more likely to experience academic success when these 4 pillars are cohesive and functioning. More importantly, and to my point today, these effective schools prioritize a positive school climate by taking intentional efforts towards reaching out to families in order to bring about such cooperation. There must be mutual respect and between the home, the schools, and the community. When I look around this room, the Ben Lapine School does have reason to celebrate. We are here, we care, and we want to be involved. We need you to ensure that that is possible. Thank you.
Next is Sonia Arnis.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. I would like to talk about teaching critical race theories in Menlo Pines School District. My name is Sonia. I'm currently a senior at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon. My family moved here in 2006, and I went through elementary school, middle school, and high school here in the Menlo Pines School District. When I first got to college, I was shocked to learn how far behind I was, especially regarding the history of the United States. I was stunned to learn that the knowledge of my peers far outweighed my own, and what I needed to learn instead was the actual true history of the United States, not a version that was sugar-coated, picked through, and at times false. I needed to learn about the Black Panther movement as well as the Civil Rights movement. I needed to learn about Malcolm X as well as Martin Luther King. I needed to learn about Stonewall and Karl Marx as well as Ruby Bridges. And I believe that in many schools across our nation and in the Menlo Pines School District, history such as this has only been partial and purposely selected to shape the views of young people in America, to make us complicit in systems of oppression, make us believe that racism is over, and to paint a flowery picture of the US government and its institutions over time. I needed to learn about Emmett Till, Fred Hampton, Marsha P. Johnson, and Angela Davis. I needed to learn about Juneteenth, the Tulsa Massacre, and how the origins of police were rooted in Jim Crow and slave patrol. And through these omissions, I never stopped to ask one of the most important questions: why is Oregon predominantly white? Our state started as a white-only state, and laws were designed that specifically discouraged Black Americans from moving here. Now we see Portland as one of the whitest cities in America. I wish I had been taught this when I went to school because it shaped the way I looked at my community, and it shaped the way I participate in my society, how I vote, and how I view American systems as a whole. So I urge you.
To mask or not to mask? That's the question that's on everybody's mind. We say follow the science. Well, great. Which version? For every expert and doctor for masks and vaccines, there's an equal number standing up against them. So what is the solution? Liberty. Liberty is the solution. The very principle each of you swore to defend when taking an oath to this Constitution. The simple answer is to leave the choice to the family and individual to decide what is best for them. The duty of this board is the education of children, and we implore you to focus on that and let the fearful decide what is best for them. Masking our kids is not an option, and you will soon see a mass exodus from these schools if you decide that that is the version of science that is best for our children. While facts around this issue are clouded, you can take kids leaving over wearing masks to the bank. The definition of delegate reads: when a higher power gives a lesser power of temporary authority to complete a task. I want to remind each of you that we delegated the duty to oversee our schools to you, and by definition is temporary. How temporary is dictated by your performance and integrity to do the job well. We have not even begun your first school year, and the integrity of the board is highly questioned. Let me remind you of your duty to perform. When it's time for public comment at this meeting or the listening session, your delegated duty is to sit down, listen, and take notes. From the very people that allow you to do the job. We don't want you to interrupt, we don't want you to interject, and we don't want you to throw temper tantrums and walk off the stage. Tyranny is defined as creating rules that apply to one group of people that don't apply to another.
Go home, outsider.
Go home, outsider. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
You know
we
what?
did not have outbursts.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
I just want to remind you that temporary is, your authority is temporary. Remember, how temporary is up to you. We are and will be watching your actions like our kids' lives depend on it, because they do.
Thank you.
We will now move to agenda item 5, consent for action. This includes items that are routine in nature for informational purposes only. Should a board member wish to ask questions or have a discussion on any of these items, she or he may request it to be removed from the consent for action and acted upon individually prior to the time the vote is taken. All remaining items of the consent for action are then completed in a single motion. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent for action.
Question?
We do not take questions.
I got cut off. I signed up and
We
I
do-
got cut off.
So did I.
We were at the end, I'm sorry, I should have stated, we were at the end of our 10 minutes. We take 10 minutes for non-agendized subjects. And so just like I said previously, I should have stated that. So thank you, Brandon, for reminding me to have vulnerability. And I should have stated that if anyone was not able to speak, please email us and send your comments. But we take 10 minutes total. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. And do we have a second? Great. So we have a motion from Yannette and a second from Marcus to approve the consent for action. We will now take a roll call vote. Normally we would do a yay or nay, but because we have members of the public or members of our board participating remotely, we will do a roll call. So may I please have your vote? Marcus? Yes?
Yay.
And then Amy?
Yay.
Karen?
Yay.
And Shamika?
Yes.
And I vote for yes, or aye, as well, and so the motion passes.
What is the motion?
What's a motion?
It's the consent agenda.
So motion, we have agendas, and our agendas are always public, and our motion was, as I said, to approve agenda item 5, consent for action. Next, we have, in order to, we are actually going to keep moving with our board meeting. We will now move to agenda item 6, policies. We are not in violation. We will now move to agenda item 6, policies and regulations and review. Superintendent Cook, will you please lead us through this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. So this is a new process. What we are doing now is bringing any policy that is either required by law for us to update and renew, or is just out of best practice that we want to update and renew those. We are bringing those policies in front of the board for board's purview. And then we're also going to push those policies out for public comment for one period of 30 days. And so what you see here are the very first 3 policies and a general idea of how we intend to approach this. So you'll see JCAR, attendance areas and in-district transfers, JECACAR, parental custody, and what those updates might look like for that one, and IGB-HABAR, choice option schools and programs. You can see some slight modification. In one case, it's just simply changing dates. In another case, it's simply changing the path to how we would handle those for when we get involved with judicial officials. And then on the choice school programming, it's just how we don't want to put limitations on students that are choicing into a school, but then would actually be better served by programming that both the families and the parents would like to have at a different school. So we just want to tweak that language. So those policies are in your board book, and they're available, and the red lines are there for you to see, so that you now have the ability to look those over. And then we, after tonight, and looking at questions on this process, this is a new one that we'd like to continue to put a more transparent line on how we're handling this. Additionally, we will push those out after tonight's meeting for 30 days for public review. So if anybody wants to comment on those, they're more than welcome. And then we'll bring those policies back for your approval, for your consideration and approval after those 30 days. So be glad to stand for any questions.
Are there any questions from board members regarding the policies and regulations and review?
Read what that is. Read the consent for action.
Can't hear.
So the question of when would we address those dates, in the case that it's just simply we need to modify the policy for changing so that it's year 21, 22. That's a simple move. Those we would like to have that feedback. What I would tell you is that it would be our intention to do this on every single one of these policies. That's what I call a big P policy, not a procedure. Those are two different things. If it is a big P policy and we need to make those changes, we bring those red lines to you, show you what we're changing, push those out for public comment so that folks can see what those recommendations would be, and then bring that back again the following month so you would see these. We will accept comments on these. I think on these three, if the public is interested in commenting on these policies, we would accept that policy through August 24th. And then those comments would also be included in your board packet at the September 14th business meeting.
All right. I want to appreciate Superintendent Cook for introducing the two-step process and really bringing forward any policies and regulations that we are reviewing so that we bring them first to talk about them and then bring them in a second meeting for action. I appreciate that transparency. Next, we will move into agenda item 7, the superintendent's report. We will now hear from Superintendent Cook again with an update on school reopening vis-a-vis the updated Ready Schools Safe Learning Guidance.
Thank you, Chair Melissa. I think I'm going to turn the mic over to Julian Rittman, our Director of Safety and Security here pretty quick. But before I do, I want to take just a little bit of time to frame out this conversation so that we're clear on what it is that we have control over and what it is that we're asking from the board's approval tonight and how those recommendations are likely to be kind of packaged. And especially with light of the governor's announcement today, I want to make sure that we're clear that what we are delineating and how it does or does not apply with what the governor's expectations are. So let me start by saying, first off, that the guidance that we received from ODE and OHA on this plan that we've been partnering with both state and local public health relies heavily on the idea that vaccinations are going to be the most useful tool for getting beyond the pandemic.